Juventus, the final they can't win. Cardiff, June 3, 2017. Mario Mandzukic controls the ball at the edge of the area, adjusts his body and connects with a bicycle kick so perfect, so technically flawless, that for a moment the entire stadium questions reality. The Real Madrid defense can only watch. The ball crashes into the net. Juventus equalize, and the comeback is there for the taking. Except anyone who's watched this competition long enough knows exactly what's coming next. By the final whistle, Juventus have lost 4-1, their 7th Champions League final defeat. 7 finals where they've walked onto the pitch believing this is the year, and walked off wondering if the problem isn't tactics, isn't personnel, isn't preparation, but something else entirely. It started in 1973. Juventus against Ajax. Johan Cruyff's Ajax. A single goal decided it. Juventus lost. A decade later, Hamburg. A single goal again. Juventus lost. Then came the brief reprieve. In 1985, victory against Liverpool. In 1996, victory against Ajax on penalties. But the curse had another twist. In 1997, Borussia Dortmund. Juventus lost 3-1. In 1998, Real Madrid. They returned to the final immediately and lost again. Back-to-back defeats. The same players, the same manager. 2 chances to lift the trophy. 0 titles. 2003, AC Milan. An all-Italian final at Old Trafford. Goalless after 120 minutes. Penalties. Juventus lost. In 2015, Barcelona. Neymar, Suarez, Messi in their prime. 3-1 Barcelona. In 2017, Real Madrid. Mandzukic's bicycle kick. The hope. The collapse. 9 finals across 5 decades, 7 defeats. No club in the history of European football has lost more finals than Juventus. Different eras, different players, different managers, same ending. PSG, the curse of collapse. For years, Paris Saint-Germain seemed allergic to the later rounds of the Champions League. Not because they couldn't get there, but because of what happened when they did. The pattern was always the same. Total control, then total implosion. 2017, the remontada. PSG leading 4-0 from the first leg against Barcelona. In the return at Camp Nou, Barcelona score 3 times in the final 7 minutes. Sergi Roberto's 95th minute winner sends PSG home 6-5 on aggregate. The most famous comeback in Champions League history, and PSG were the victims. 2019, leading Manchester United 2-0 from the first leg. Against a United side missing 10 first-team players, PSG somehow lose 3-1. Rashford's 94th minute penalty eliminates them on away goals. In 2022, up 2-0 on aggregate against Real Madrid with an hour played. Karim Benzema scores a 17-minute hat-trick, goals in the 61st, 76th and 78th minute. PSG lose 3-2 on aggregate. Another lead evaporated. 3 collapses in 5 years, each more devastating than the last. And then, in May 2025, PSG finally broke the pattern. A 5-0 demolition of Inter Milan in the final. The first French club to win the Champions League since Marseille in 1993. They didn't just win, they made it look inevitable. Sometimes the only way to beat a curse is to stop believing you're cursed at all. Arsenal, the invisible ceiling. Arsenal have reached exactly 1 Champions League final in their entire history. Paris, 2006. Jens Lehmann sent off in the 18th minute. The first player ever dismissed in a European Cup final. Down to 10 men against Barcelona. Sol Campbell's header gave them the lead anyway. For nearly 40 minutes, Arsenal held on. Then Samuel Eto'o equalised in the 76th minute. Giuliano Belletti scored the winner 4 minutes later. Arsenal lost 2-1. That should have been the beginning. Instead, it was the peak. What followed was a decade of stagnation. 7 consecutive round of 16 exits between 2011 and 2017. Bayern Munich became their recurring nightmare. Knocked out in 2013, again in 2014, then the 10-2 aggregate destruction in 2017. The worst defeat ever suffered by an English club in the competition. After that, Arsenal disappeared from the Champions League entirely. 6 years in the wilderness. When they finally returned under Mikel Arteta, the question wasn't whether they could compete again. It was whether the ceiling was still there. In 24-25, they got their answer. A 5-1 demolition of Real Madrid in the quarter-finals suggested the curse was finally broken. Then came the semi-final against PSG, a 3-1 aggregate defeat. Progress, certainly, but the final remains out of reach. Benfica, the spoken curse. Most curses are metaphors. This one was actually spoken out loud. In 1962, Bela Gutmann had just delivered Benfica back-to-back European Cups, the only Portuguese club to ever win the competition. He asked for a pay rise. The board refused. So Gutmann walked out the door and left behind a prophecy. Not in 100 years will Benfica be European champions. To understand the weight of those words, you have to understand who spoke them. Gutmann never stayed at a club longer than 2 seasons. He said the third year was always fatal. He got sacked by AC Milan while they were top of the league. Walked out on jobs across 10 different countries. This wasn't a man who made idle threats. Since that day, Benfica have reached 8 major European finals. They've lost all of them. 1963, AC Milan. 1965, Inter Milan. 1968, Manchester United at Wembley. 1983, Anderlecht in the UEFA Cup. 1988, PSV Eindhoven on penalties. 1990, AC Milan again. Then 2013 and 2014. The 2013 Europa League final was held at the Amsterdam Arena, the same stadium where Benfica had won the 1962 European Cup against Real Madrid. The venue where the curse began. Branislav Ivanovic scored for Chelsea in the 93rd minute. A year later against Sevilla, Benfica missed 2 penalties in the shootout. One of them was taken by Oscar Cardozo. 8 chances to break the curse. 8 failures. In 2014, Benfica unveiled a statue of Gutmann outside Estadio da Luz. He stands holding both European Cups. An official apology, cast in bronze. Months later, they lost another final. Years later, Eusebio called the curse a lie. But the results don't lie. The curse expires in year 2062. Benfica fans are still waiting. The overachievers. Every few years, a team punches so far above its weight that the entire Champions League stops to watch. They play with the freedom of a side that has nothing to lose. No expectations, no pressure, no one giving them a chance. And then they never come back. Ajax 2019 might be the most painful example. A squad full of teenagers knocked out Real Madrid 4-1 at the Bernabeu. In the semi-finals against Tottenham, Ajax were 3-0 up on aggregate at half-time of the second leg. Then Lucas Moura scored a hat-trick. His third goal came in the 96th minute. Tottenham advanced to the final. That summer, De Jong left for Barcelona, De Ligt for Juventus. The dream was over before anyone realized what had been lost. Monaco 2017. A brilliant young squad that reached the semi-finals playing fearless attacking football. Mbappe was 18. Bernardo Silva was 22. By the following summer, both were gone. Monaco went from semi-finalists to mid-table within a year. Malaga 2013 tells the same story with an even crueler ending. In their first and only Champions League campaign, they reached the quarter-finals. Against Borussia Dortmund, Malaga were 2-1 up on aggregate with 90 minutes played, seconds from the semi-finals. Then Marco Reus equalized in the 91st minute. Felipe Santana scored the winner in the 93rd. Within months, due to financial issues, UEFA banned them from European competition. The squad was sold off piece by piece. By 2023, they'd fallen to Spain's third tier, from Champions League quarter-finalists to the third division in a decade. The overachievers' curse isn't that they failed to build on their breakthrough, it's that the breakthrough itself triggers the collapse. The better they play, the faster they're dismantled. The magic run doesn't repeat, because it destroys the very conditions that made it possible. Pep Guardiola, rejected by Europe. By any reasonable measure, Pep Guardiola is the greatest manager of his generation. Tactical visionary, serial winner. A coach who doesn't just collect trophies, but reshapes how football is played. And for over a decade, the Champions League wanted nothing to do with him. Guardiola won the competition twice with Barcelona, 2009 and 2011, with a squad many consider the greatest club side ever assembled. Since then, the tournament became his obsession and his nemesis. At Bayern Munich, 3 Bundesliga titles in 3 years, 0 Champions League finals. Eliminated by Real Madrid in 2014, Barcelona in 2015, Atletico Madrid in 2016. 3 semi-finals, 3 Spanish executioners. In 2018, Liverpool dismantled his Manchester City team 5-1 on aggregate. In 2019, Tottenham eliminated them on away goals after VAR disallowed Sterling's stoppage time winner. In 2020, Lyon, 7th in French Ligue 1, beat them 3-1. City finally reached the final in 2021 against Chelsea. Guardiola left Rodri on the bench, no holding midfielder. Kai Havertz scored. City managed 1 shot on target in 90 minutes. They lost 1-0 to a team they had beaten twice in the league that season. Then came 2022. Against Real Madrid in the semi-finals, City led 5-3 on aggregate with 90 minutes played. Only minutes away from the final, Rodrigo scored in the 91st. And the 92nd minute, Benzema converted the extra-time penalty. City's players stood frozen, not beaten by tactics, beaten by disbelief. Then came Istanbul, 2023. Manchester City against Inter Milan. Something had changed. Guardiola seemed lighter, less obsessive. Rodri's 68th minute goal won it. The man who Europe rejected for 12 years became a 3-time winner. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, the missing trophy. 120 Champions League appearances, 48 goals, 7 different clubs, domestic titles in 4 different countries, 0 Champions League finals. Zlatan Ibrahimovic is the most decorated player in European football to never win the biggest prize. At Juventus, he reached the quarter-finals in 2005. They lost to Liverpool, who went on to win the competition in Istanbul. The following year, another quarter-final exit, this time to Arsenal. Months later, Juventus were relegated to Serie B. At Inter Milan, 3 consecutive Serie A titles, but 3 years, 3 round-of-16 exits. Valencia, Liverpool, Manchester United. The furthest he ever went with Inter was the first knockout stage. In 2009, he left for Barcelona. The following season, Inter won the Champions League under Mourinho, beating Barcelona in the semi-finals. Zlatan watched his former teammates lift the trophy. He moved to AC Milan, with his former Barcelona team winning the Champions League that same season. Then PSG, where he became the club's all-time leading scorer. 4 League One titles. But in those years, PSG never made it past the Champions League quarter-finals. At Manchester United in 2016, they weren't even in the Champions League. Zlatan helped them win the Europa League, though he missed the final with a knee injury. The cruelest chapter came in 22-23. Zlatan had returned to Milan for a final act, but ACL surgery the previous summer meant he wasn't registered for the Champions League squad. AC Milan reached the semi-finals, their best run in over a decade. Zlatan could only watch helplessly. 120 appearances, first player to appear for 7 different Champions League clubs, and somehow never even a final. Football gives you what you earn, except when it doesn't. Except when the one trophy that matters kept slipping through fingers that held everything else. The second leg collapse. This isn't one curse, it's the one that contains all the others. We've already seen the pattern. PSG's 3 collapses. Barcelona undone by Roma, then Liverpool. City frozen at the Bernabeu. Ajax's dream ended by Lucas Moura in the 96th minute. But this isn't new. The Champions League has been breaking hearts like this for decades. Year 2000. Chelsea against Barcelona. Chelsea won the first leg 3-1 at Stamford Bridge. At the Camp Nou, Rivaldo and Figo had Barcelona level on aggregate by half-time. Toure Andre Flo pulled one back, but Danny's late header forced extra time. Rivaldo, who'd missed a penalty moments earlier, completed the demolition in extra time. Final aggregate score: Barcelona 6, Chelsea 4. 2004. AC Milan against Deportivo La Coruña. Milan won the first leg 4-1. Job done. Except it wasn't. At halftime of the second leg, they still led 4-1 on aggregate. Maldini, Nesta, Pirlo, one of the great defenses in European history. Deportivo scored 4 times in the second half. Final aggregate: 5-4 Deportivo. The defending champions eliminated by a team that had no business being there. Deportivo's manager had promised to walk the pilgrim trail to Santiago de Compostela if they advanced. He kept his promise. 2004. Real Madrid against Monaco. The Galacticos, Zidane, Ronaldo, Figo, Raúl, Beckham, Roberto Carlos, had won the first leg 4-2 at the Bernabeu. 9 consecutive Champions League matches unbeaten. Monaco won 3-1 at home. Fernando Morientes, on loan from Real Madrid, scored against his parent club. Monaco advanced on away goals and reached the final. 2012. Napoli against Chelsea. Napoli led 3-1 from the first leg. Chelsea's manager had been sacked 9 days earlier. The old guard, Drogba, Terry, Lampard, were reinstated by interim boss Roberto Di Matteo. Drogba headed in the opener. Terry rose for the second. Lampard converted a penalty to force extra time. Ivanovic won it in the 105th minute. Napoli watched Chelsea go on to win the whole competition. 2013. AC Milan against Barcelona. Milan won the first leg 2-0 at San Siro. No team had ever overturned a 2-goal away deficit in the Champions League. Messi scored twice in the first 40 minutes. David Villa and Jordi Alba completed the 4-0 demolition. Barcelona became the first team to do it. 2015. Porto against Bayern Munich. Porto won the first leg 3-1. Bayern were missing Robben and Ribéry through injury. In the return leg, Bayern scored 5 goals before half an hour had passed. Final score: 6-1. Aggregate: 7-4. The banner behind the Bayern goal had read, "Niemals aufgeben," never give up. 2019. Atletico Madrid against Juventus. Atletico led 2-0 from the first leg. Best defense in Europe. Hadn't conceded in 5 straight matches. Ronaldo scored a hat-trick. 2 headers, 1 penalty. 25 career goals against Atletico Madrid. 3 weeks later, Juventus lost at home to Ajax. But for one night, Ronaldo reminded everyone why they'd paid €100 million for a 33-year-old. The structure of the Champions League, 2 legs, home and away, creates pressure no other competition can replicate. The first leg builds the advantage. The second leg tests whether you can hold it. Sports psychologists call it catastrophic thinking. One bad moment cascades into another. The more a team tries to protect a lead, the more passive they become. And passivity is lethal. The clubs who break through are the ones who learn to manage this. The clubs who don't? They watch someone else lift the trophy. Some curses have endings. PSG broke theirs in 2025. Guardiola silenced his doubters in Istanbul. Others continue. Juventus haven't reached a final since 2017. Benfica fans are still counting down to 2062. They're not about bad luck. They're about history pressing down on human shoulders. The moment when expectation becomes heavier than anything else. If you made it this far, you're clearly cursed too. Subscribe and let me know in the comments which collapse still haunts you.